You look very pale. I'm connected to a glucose monitor via an app.
Diabetes. Amazing what you can do these days.
It's on her arm.
Can I imagine that? Her arm's talking to his phone.
Crickets.
Your readings look all right.
Hey! Oh, pot's all round, is it?
Oh, hey, Paul, have you met Esther and Mike?
Join us.
Oh, no.
Are you okay?
Maybe I should walk you home.
Maybe we should just do a prick test just to make sure.
I don't think it's that.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 226 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that thinks if Bridget gets 15 years for murder, Lucy gets 20 for perverting the course of justice, Bernie is looking at 15 consecutive life sentences for nicking that Gucci handbag and a tray of H.M. Samuel tat. I'm Gavin.
And I am a speed demon. Mwah, ha, ha, ha.
Old Leadfoot Broom strikes again.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
You've been off on your best behaviour when it comes to speeding in the 25.
Yeah, because typically the road that attaches, the main road that attaches to our street.
I should warn you now that my bullshit detector sound is about to go off.
No,
so
it's not.
Be very careful.
Listen, you have no idea what I'm going to say.
I have a good idea.
So part of it is in the township and is called Plains Road. And then when it hits the city limits, it becomes State Street. The township road, the speed limit is 45 miles per hour. The second you hit the city limits, which is right by the high school where our children attend school,
So, school.
it goes down to 25.
At the school.
Right.
At the big school building.
Right, yes. Now, typically I'm very good because, you know, it's daytime and typically I'm driving slower because I've just turned and I'm on the slow part, the State Street part before we get to the Plains Road. But tonight I drop one child off at the roller skating rink because somehow it's 1995 again.
Uh-oh. Hey, if it was 1995, you wouldn't get done for speeding.
It's true. I'll be getting done for other things, but never mind.
Right.
Now, at night, there is a cop that parks right across from the high school in the dark in the parking lot for the athletic fields. And I typically know he's there because he's always there. And I am very careful to pump on the brakes a little bit before I hit that city limits. But tonight,
I think typically he's doing an awful lot of heavy lifting here.
typically, I do. It's been many years since I've had a ticket.
That doesn't mean that it's been many years since you've
Anyway.
been speeding.
Anyway, no, but I typically do because I know he's there. Because he's always there because he's
Always there.
right.
Outside the school.
Fuck the police.
We're on the minute 3 of this, by the way.
Right. Yeah. Well, you keep interrupting and implied that I'm like a very bad person, which I am not.
No, but you're Leadfoot.
Not really. And you've seen my mother drive. I come by my need for speed, honestly. Who do you think it was who taught me when going into a curve to hit the gas and not the brake?
Anyway, as we approach minute 4.
Right. We have to do the podcast tonight. I hadn't finished watching. I had 2 more episodes to go. We're watching it tonight because our son's soccer team
Oh, detail that is
in the
not necessary.
playoffs, even though he can't play because he's fractured his pelvis, which is just, I think we talked about that already.
And this is another
So it's
week where
not-
we don't find out how my week's been, I guess.
So I was not paid attention. This is just one night. This isn't my week. So I was not paying
Shall we
attention.
preamble, my dear?
So I was not paying attention as I should. And I don't even notice him. I turn onto our street, and that's when I notice the flashing lights, and I'm like, oh, who is he after? Turns out it was me.
Mm-hmm.
So I apologized to all of my neighbors that they had flashy lights in their windows
It was Friday Night Disco.
because of me.
Right.
Ugh.
Well,
And the
you
guy
know-
looked like Anderson Cooper, so I wasn't taking him very seriously. He was a cop I didn't know. I know an awful lot of the cops in town because I've run for public office and have been involved in city stuff, but
Previous speeding tickets.
no, not previous speeding tickets. None of those guys still work on the force. So, geez, I've had a night. How was your week, my darling?
Well, the Earth rotates at 1,000 miles an hour. It moves round the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. And the sun moves through the galaxy at roughly 500,000 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. So in the grand scheme of things, it's 5 over, really that much of a big deal.
It really shouldn't be.
It really shouldn't be.
No. But how was your week?
It was all right. Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that Speedy Gonzales. Corrie News.
I'm going to start calling you Matt
Leadfoot.
Lucas over there. I wouldn't do that to you.
No.
I wouldn't do that to my worst enemy. Excuse me. Sorry. Ruxandra Pornico, our former Alina Pop, has gotten herself a little banged up this week, showing off a bandaged hand and wrist on the Insta. We wish her a speedy recovery.
Oh, what happened?
She wasn't specific. She said she'd been clumsy. So that could go so
Because
many.
I think that's a key part of that story is what happened to her.
Right. She was clumsy. And that can be interpreted in so many dark and disturbing ways that I'd rather not think about it.
Okay.
Moving on. We've had the return of Windy Flaming Crozier.
We have.
Now we may be getting the return of Martha Flaming Frazier.
I don't think maybe. I think it's been confirmed now, hasn't it?
Stephanie Beacham has been teased
Stephanie Beacham.
as returning to the show after a 12-year break. Stay tuned for antics of the elderly kind.
Stephanie Beacham.
Does it disturb you that it seems like the only people on the street having sex are Ken and Summer?
Stephanie
Not with each
Beacham,
other.
though. Sable Colby, no less.
I have no idea what that means.
You haven't heard of the Colbys or Dynasty?
You mean Dynasty?
I mean Dynasty.
It's an American show. It's Dynasty.
It's Dynasty. You haven't heard of it though?
I've heard of Dynasty,
Well,
yes.
then you've heard of Stephanie Beacham playing Sable Colby then.
I didn't watch Dynasty as a child. Remember, I had a game show mom, not a soap opera mom.
Stephanie Beacham's quite a big deal. Again, to return to the show.
Right.
I just hope that Ken's drinking lots of milk.
And finally, Corrie fans will be seeing double next time they visit the Madame Tussauds in Blackpool.
Wow.
Do you know why?
Yes, I do know why.
Because Jack P. Shepherd has now been immortalized in wax. An event that made his mother cry. Tears of joy.
We
To see
assume.
her son. This is what he's been interviewed and his mom's been interviewed. She was so happy to see it, I guess.
I think they melt the old ones down to make new ones.
Oh, that's
That's
disturbing.
is what I think happens.
No, that's got to
Because Coulson said, well, maybe you'll get it, if they take it out, maybe you'll get to take it home on this Sofa Cinema Club. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm sure they melt them down.
Why would they take him out?
Well, they've got limited space. And they take people out and replace them with new people.
I suppose.
Because like in 50 years' time, maybe people don't remember Jack P. Shepherd as David Platt.
I mean, the Marilyn and the Elvis one are still
Yeah, it's not exactly the same thing, though.
not exactly
I
the
can see
same
where you're
thing.
going with it, but it's not exactly the same thing.
Excuse me. And that's Corrie News.
Wow.
I would be very excited too if one of my children was immortalized in wax. Because they have like a little Rover's Return set up there.
Right.
And I guess Ken is already immortalized in wax, and a few other people.
As far as we're led to believe from the conversation between Ben Price and Coulson and Jack B. Shepherd,
Which I was only half listening to.
the likeness is uncanny.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And is it?
Because I read an article. It's thinner than he is and a little bit younger looking. Like they were using
that's fine. Yeah.
a picture from like 10 years ago. But yes, it's very much an uncanny likeness. Because
Very
there's
good.
a picture of him with it. I say it. It isn't it.
Isn't
but
it?
still,
Yeah.
it's weird. Aren't those things weird?
I don't like them.
They're very uncanny.
I've been to the one in London, the Madame Tussauds. That's been there for like more than 100 years, I think.
Yeah.
And it's an expensive day out, and it's, I don't know.
Yeah, you're just
I
looking.
don't know what the
You're just
what's
looking
the
at wax.
point of it, right?
It's not even an animatronic. You know? At least when you go to the Hall of Presidents at Disney World, they tell you a story and sing a song.
Yeah, just like the real presidents do.
Yes.
I mean, I think
Of course,
I
we
mean,
can never go back there again.
no,
but that's
obviously
all right.
not. But that's
It's been sullied.
It's very much a privilege to be included in it. But I don't know, tourists love it. I guess that's the main thing,
I've
right?
been to the one in Dublin. That's it. I've never been to any of the ones in America, which
I didn't
is
even
weird.
know that there was one in Dublin or in America.
Well,
Now let's podcast for coffee, shall we? If you think this is worth any more than the time it takes to listen to it, you can buy us a coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. And a reminder that for the month of October, we will be donating all our coffee money to BCRF, which is Breast Cancer Research Foundation. We will be matching any donation up to about a couple of $100.
yes.
I will be donating it through my work, which matches the donations, and then BCRF themselves match it. For every $5 coffee that's bought, that is
$20.
$40
$40.
that goes to BCRF.
Good God, I'm bad at the math.
There is news. That should have been in Corrie News. But yeah, if you want to do that, head over to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street, and we'll be very appreciative, as will BCRF, wouldn't they, Helen?
Yes.
And now, this.
Welcome.
Welcome to Last Year Tonight with me, John Oliver. Just enough time to quickly talk about Coronation Street. That's an easy one.
God.
That's an easy one.
Oh God, this is the saga of the floating gun, amongst other things.
That's right. That was the name given. I thought it was a really good name as well.
It was.
Coronation Street's a pretty fantastic name.
Yeah, it's too bad that the episodes were shit.
This was the little, I guess, fair that they had going on Coronation Street.
Right, they
for
had like a
Halloween
haunted
last year.
house and the cider and stuff. No bobbing for apples because we were in the time of COVID.
We were. I was Gavin, and you still didn't understand what "in the circus no one can hear you scream" meant, because people hear you screaming in the circus.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
kind of the point, right?
Right.
Your
It's
cough,
space where no one can hear you scream because it's a vacuum.
your cough was getting worse.
That's hilarious.
So I say cough and you cough.
Well, no.
Not always.
No, you made me laugh, and laughing makes me cough.
Right, I promise not to make you laugh for the next hour and a half.
Well, considering the episodes we're going to be talking about, that won't be hard.
Your cough was getting worse, so it was back out with the sex pillow. Timbot 4000 made a rare reappearance. Meanwhile, a storm is a brewing over Weatherfield. Abby and her gun make plans for sweet, sweet revenge on ITV Corrie, who's bragging on Insta about having the house to himself isn't going to do him any favours. In jail, Harvey breaks some of his own bones in an attempt to abscond on the way to hospital. God, I forgot all about that. He breaks his own hand.
Yeah, that was creepy.
The Allahans are off on holiday in the middle of a downpour, and the distracted Dev accidentally flattens the car tyres, leaving them sitting ducks at the side of the road. It's sinkhole a go-go as characters left and right drop into the Weatherfield sewers, leaving Leo and Johnny to come up with a plan to rescue Jenny. Well done, Johnny. It's going to take more than that to scare Amy and Summer. Roy doesn't know his own strength, and Imran will be back. Our moment of the week, yeah, he was. Our moment of the week was Jenny and Johnny's final kiss, and our boring moment of the week was Harvey complaining about the weather to Leanne, and that was Coronation Street and the Talk of the Street. This time last year.
Let's see if any of those people pop up in moment of the week and boring moment of the week this week. No.
Yeah, probably not.
No, because I already know what boring moment of the week is.
Actually, I think some of those characters might crop up in my suggestion for moment of the week.
Well, moment of the week,
Yeah,
not boring.
Not boring moment of the week. How strange was it though in this week's episodes that people are mourning the loss of Natasha and having memorials, and
Right.
everyone's forgotten about Johnny. Carla never mentions him.
Well,
Jenny never mentions him.
Well, Jenny is hyper focused on Leo, and Carla is hyper focused on getting rid of her jackets,
Sure.
and Peter going to protests about plastic. with
Shall we
Griff?
dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Our first storyline tonight is Coronation Street 2. Coronation Street kills. And that's enough of that. On Monday, it's morning and Nick is walking about topless, or so it looks like. Leanne has stuff in her mind. She wonders if Nick is curious to know what Harvey wants. Nope, says Nick. He destroyed this family and he's still dangerous. Stay clear, he says. And she agrees. Meanwhile, he's off to spoil Sam on the day before the anniversary of his mum's death. In Nina's roles, Nick has a word with Nina, who is no stranger to death. She recommends talking to Sam, being open about it, making it clear that it's okay to talk about stuff. Confronting it is the best idea,
Right,
she
yeah.
says.
It was hilarious because he's like, yeah, I'm really worried because he's not talking about it. He hasn't said anything about it. And Nina says, well, what have you said to him about it? And Nick is like, oh, I haven't said anything because I don't want to upset him. And it's like, do you hear yourself talking?
He went through about 3 or 4 months of being utterly useless when it came to Sam. Because he was on the verge of tears for the longest time. And
Right,
it
yes.
feels like he's regressing back into that state, whereas Sam seems to be kind of, I mean, we'll learn how exactly he's handling this a bit later, but he's not handling it terribly, I wouldn't have thought.
He's not handling it great.
It's not terrible, though. I mean, that what he's doing is
He's
understandable.
writing letters to
well,
them.
we don't know that yet. But it's kind of understandable what he's doing. So Nick does this. He talks to Sam about his mum and the upcoming anniversary, and that he's here for his wee boy. He knows how much he misses her, and he encourages Sam to talk to someone, even if that someone isn't him. Preferably if that someone isn't him, I think. Sam agrees and goes home to write a poem for his dead mum.
Dear dead mum, how's it going? Oh, that's not really that's a letter, not a
Yeah.
poem. Didn't he write a letter to his dead mum, like shortly after she died?
No, I think he insists that feelings must be expressed through the medium of poetry. Meanwhile, in the bistro, Leanne has her nose in her phone, then announces that she's leaving to do some errands, telling Debbie that it's to do with Natasha's anniversary. So, therefore, Debbie stops asking questions about it.
Right, and that was hilarious too, because Debbie is giving Leanne so much heck for being on her phone and not paying attention and not doing stuff. And, it's like heckling her basically. And then it's only as Leanne turns to leave that she says, oh, is this about Natasha's anniversary death? And it's like, if you remembered that it was the anniversary of Natasha's death this whole time, why were you heckling her so long? What is going on with people's brains?
Yeah. She goes into the office, retrieves one of those prison visit order things, and then gets on the phone. Back at the flat, Sam's on the rhyming poetry again. Leanne comes home to learn that he and Nick are going to do a memorial for Natasha, and they ask Leanne to join in, but she says that she's promised to do the cash and carry for Debbie, which is a lie.
It is a lie.
And later, Nick and Sam go to the bistro to run the memorial idea by Debbie, because if you're going to run a memorial, you're going to do it in the bistro, right? You're not going to like go to a grave or anything like that. You're going to do it at the bistro.
Or, out in the memorial garden, or like you said, in the cemetery.
But
Wait, was she buried? Did we have a cemetery scene for her?
I don't think we did.
Did we have a graveyard scene at all?
I don't think we did. Well, a grave scene for Clayton, I remember, but I don't remember a grave scene for Natasha. I don't remember anyone running through the gravestones for Natasha.
No, I remember them all in dark suits and following the hearse.
Yeah. I don't think it went anywhere.
No. It was kind of like all these time jumps in House of the Dragon.
Was it like that at all?
Only it was House of the Platts.
When Nick learns that Leanne isn't at the cash and carry after all, and no one has the faintest idea where she is. Because where she is at the jail where she meets Harvey. He looks like he's doing pretty well inside. Miss me? He asks.
Yeah, it's all that exercise he's getting. Dancing in the prison.
It's like the end of Paddington 2.
Yeah, it's very much like Paddington 2.
Everything comes back to Paddington 2.
It's like, remember when David was in prison and he got a tan?
That's not all I remember from David being in prison. I remember Riot.
And I remember a certain season 1 of a certain DVD.
Yep.
Oh,
Good times.
we've got so many people in prison now. I'm so excited. We haven't had prison scenes in a long time.
Miss me, he asks. He wants to keep this
Sweetheart.
quick, but Leanne has some stuff she wants to get off her chest first, and she rubs it in a bit about him fucking up on Coronation Street because she's still alive. She's living her best life with topless Nick while he's inside, rotten.
It's kind of a weird thing to be bragging about, considering that the only reason why she's alive is because he murdered Sam's mom.
Yeah, he murdered somebody else, yeah. She doesn't care what he wants, doesn't care if he's found God. He can suck on Leanne's hairy balls for all she cares, and she gets up to leave. And that's when Harvey mentions Sam and wonders if Sam feels the same way as Leanne does. He explains how Sam has been writing to him multiple times a week for a month, and he wants it to stop. If word gets out that he has an 11-year-old boy as a pen pal, folk will think he's a pedo, which was, I think, the first sign that Harvey is now a comedy character.
Really?
Yeah, I found Harvey kind of funny.
You found him worried that he would get murdered in jail because people would think he's a pedophile?
Nobody's getting
Funny?
murdered in this jail, especially not Harvey. But that's the line that he's pitching to Leanne.
People get murdered in jail all the time.
Yeah, in Coronation Street jail, I don't think they do. But no, I thought some of this was played for laughs. Maybe not laughs, but light-heartedly.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I found it very tense.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't find that tense in the slightest.
And creepy and really disturbing because of the way that he's treating her.
I found it quite moving towards the end of the scene. But at the start of it, yeah, I thought it was kind of...
No, it was gross and creepy all the way through.
I thought that Harvey was trying to play it a little bit light.
The way he's treating her like a piece of meat, essentially. And like her life doesn't matter.
And then he says that Sam's mum's dead, tell him to go over it. Yeah, see, that I think is...
That's disturbing.
Is it?
Yeah. His mom's dead. Tell him to get over it. I don't fucking care. He doesn't care, and he's not sorry.
Maybe it's because it's Will Mellor. I'm kind of reading an awful lot of this as kind of light entertainment.
It's Wendy Flamin Papadopoulos all over again. 'Cause remember when you were reading stuff into her just because of who she is or who she was before?
Yeah, because I'm watching him do like the Argentine tango and stuff, and I'm remembering from Pints of Lager and Crisps thing, and I'm thinking, this is far lighter than I was expecting it to be.
No, I found it
well.
very dark.
Oh well. His mum's dead, tell him to go over it. He says, losing any hope he had for Leanne funding his child bereavement services charity. Leanne is less than sympathetic, telling Harvey how badly losing his mum affected Sam. The letters will stop, but Harvey can still suck on her balls, and she's kind of awesome in this scene.
Yes.
She heads back to the bistro where Nick has worked out where she's been, but before he can get his knickers in a knot, she tells him about the letters. So they go back home and confront Sam about it, Leanne revealing that she saw Harvey today. Sam explains that he just wants to know why Harvey killed his mum and why he's such a fucking prick. Nick is quick to anger, saying that nothing that Harvey says or thinks is any of Sam's business anymore. And maybe there isn't a why, but Sam's not buying it. There's always a why. But he says he'll agree to stop writing the letters if he can go visit Harvey one time. Nick won't hear of it, and Leanne thinks it's just a terrible idea, and Harvey won't give permission, even if he does, he's unlikely to give Sam the answer that he wants. Well, good for you both, says Sam, because she was my mum, and this is my decision. And the wee man stomps off.
Yeah, and good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
I find an awful lot of this discourse from the adults in the room a little disturbing, because I don't think the way Sam is going about it is right. But I think that he does have a right to confront the murderer of his mother and to ask him why and get some answers. And everybody keeps saying, "Oh, well, he's just a monster animal. He has no reason.
Right.
He's just..."
Dehumanize them.
Right. Yeah. And, yes, the character's a bad guy, but he's still a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And people in prison are human beings. And when we dehumanize them, that's when prisons can get away with treating people as if they're not human beings.
Well, this is why I thought Sam was dealing with this pretty well, because what he's wanting here is what normally is given to victims, that they get a chance to confront the person and they get a chance to ask questions and stuff, and he's never been afforded that, and
because he's a minor,
because he's like a kid, and people just want him to move on. And he says something I think on Wednesday that I thought was very poignant. So let's move through Wednesday then.
Okay.
It's Natasha's memorial thing today, and Sam is writing his poem and ignoring Nick while being perfectly polite to Leanne. Nick again is quick to anger, wondering why he's the bad guy just because he won't let Sam meet his mother's murderer. Leanne points out that the important thing is that Sam gets through the day. So at the bistro for the memorial, Nick stands up to say a few words about how they all miss Natasha and how great a mum she was, and how she wouldn't want Sam to go to a facility of corrections to see people serving time for murder. And it comes out that Sam has been writing letters to Harvey looking for answers, and Nick is confused. Wasn't he trying to kill Leanne? He says while Leanne is there.
Right, yeah.
Nice little reminder.
Yes.
And Audrey thinks that Harvey is a monster. Sam isn't impressed at any of this. You keep telling me to tell you what I need to heal, and when I tell you, you ignore me.
Right, yeah.
And that was just
absolutely valid.
Best response.
Yeah.
Because he's absolutely right.
Right. Yeah. Another child on the street will say basically the same thing to her guardians on Friday. And while I absolutely hate that storyline, that was the one bit of that storyline, which we will get to later, that I appreciated, is that these adults just will not listen to these children when these children are able to well articulate their needs.
Yeah, you want me to speak? Well, I'm speaking. And just because you don't like what I'm saying, you can't have it both ways kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely spot on there. Fuck you all, he says, and he heads off home. Thankfully, though, not reading any of his poetry, which, if memory serves, is worse than Vaughan stuff. Audrey follows him, and the two of them have a chat. Audrey's honest to Sam, telling him that visiting Harvey is a stupid idea, and he appreciates the honesty. At least there's that. Sam can appreciate that Nick is worried about him. Audrey says that Sam is clever, but sometimes that doesn't mean he's right, and he sucks a thoughtful tooth at this. He just wants to make sense of it all. Audrey advises that there will never be an explanation that will satisfy him, and maybe he should just focus on the positive things he has in his life.
And that's not necessarily true.
No.
Again, just assuming that Harvey is not capable of putting together cohesive thought at all.
And even if he isn't, that in itself is a little bit of closure. You try to speak to him. He really is a monster, or he isn't prepared to give him any of the answers that he wants. Well, that in itself is a bit of an answer.
Right.
And then Sam and Audrey discover that they have a shared interest in astronomy. Audrey's kept that one quiet.
Yes.
Afterwards, Sam meets up with Hope and reveals that while he's told his family that he's given up trying to meet Harvey or write any more letters, as he fuck is like, Hope approves of this. Being deceitful to his parents is cool, as is writing
Mm-hmm.
and maybe meeting a murderer.
Yes. Yes, Hope is really into murderers.
Yeah. Funny that. On Friday, Nick is in Nina's Rolls talking to Shona about Sam and Audrey's help yesterday. Nick thinks Sam has turned a corner and will have forgotten the name of the man who murdered his mother by the end of the year.
Yeah, like that's going to happen.
In 2 months then. Shona gulps, lightheartedly.
Yes.
Because next we see Sam is chatting to Hope again in the backyard. Hope is helping Sam learn about manipulating parents.
I knew Hope was good for something.
Hope was telling him a story about she'd broken one of Tyrone's cups or something and
Right.
blamed it on Evelyn, but said don't tell Evelyn because she's really upset about it.
Right. Which should have been Ty's first giveaway that Hope was full of shit.
Right. Sam gets home and asks if it's okay that Hope stays for tea. Nick offers to make something nice, but Sam is happy with pasta and pesto and the old yogurt that's in the fridge. Nick nips off to get the pasta from the shops, and as soon as he's gone, Hope calls Sam a loser for not asking for more. Sam explains he doesn't like lying to them, and he reckons that there's no point writing to Harvey now because he throws out his letters unread anyway. And all this boils Hope's piss, and she leaves goody Sam to his pasta and his shitty yogurt. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
So what do you think Hope's going to do?
Well, I don't know if Hope is just involved in this to give us Sam's inner thoughts, or if she's actively going to be a participant in the storyline. Because if she's actively going to be a participant
I'm all for that.
in the storyline, then maybe she's going to start writing some letters. Who knows?
I am all for that. I am all for Hope coming up with a scheme for Sam to get the closure that he needs because the adults in his life are unwilling to do the hard things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for that.
Well, this is Corrie Parenting 101, though, isn't it? Avoid the hard conversations as much as
Right.
possible.
And
Because, God,
until the worst possible thing happens.
Nick has to get advice on parenting from Nina, who isn't a mother.
Right.
Just because Nina is no stranger to death, well, there's nobody on the street that's really a stranger to death. I guess Nina's had
More than her fair share.
for her tender years. But
And also, I'm just really happy that Nina and Asher were in it this week.
yes, they were. And they were quite funny in it.
And yeah, they were good. Can we give them some good, happy storylines, please?
Well, I don't know if we do happy storylines anymore. But that
That anorak is never coming back.
it really isn't. But yeah, Nick he's quick to complain, and he loses his temper a couple of times with Sam here that I didn't really think
He's really quick to moan.
was useful to anything.
He
And
looks very old now, doesn't he?
I think it's because he was wearing that topless shirt, wasn't it?
His hair looks
Why was he
grayer.
wearing a shirt that's the same colour as his complexion? That's just weird. And he had
He wears
a
a lot
leather
of
jacket on top of it that looked like he was cutting about like he was out of
he wears a lot of
grease.
he wears a lot of neutral colors, does our Nick?
Yeah, I think that I think it was actually quite nice to see, or was it nice? It was good to see Harvey back in it again. I've had little reservations that he was getting out somehow, but
Right.
But the fact that it was restricted to the prison, I quite appreciated, and I really liked Leanne's scenes with him because Leanne has had her history and her it's taken her a while to warm to Sam following the death of Oliver.
Right.
But the relationship they seem to have now is very much stepmother and stepchild thing, and as she's making the case for Sam to him and talking about how his life has been devastated and stuff, I thought she was amazing in that scene.
Yeah. I also really liked the scene with Sam and Audrey. You
Yeah.
know, I heard some people say it should have been Gail instead of Audrey
No, I
giving
think-
that talk.
No, I'm not sure.
Because, you know, the last time Audrey and Sam were alone together, she called him Ben
Was that the
and
last
was
time?
drunk
She was drunk.
with just the two of them together. She's more sober now.
Yeah.
She still drinks.
Yeah, she does.
She still drinks.
Not done
So
last.
the show needs to, you know, I don't know, research a little bit better and stuff. But
She's not giving up booze. She's never given that up. She's cutting it back. That's at her age. That's all you can ask for. Moving on to our next storyline is An Innocent Homeless Stu. A great album by Billy Joel. Or Billy Joel. Am I right, Glasgow? Am I right?
No.
On Monday, Homeless Stu is on the phone to the cop shop and seems surprised when he learns that Lucy and Bridget have been charged and up in court today. This
Dynasty.
really annoyed me.
Yeah.
Alia apologises and Homeless Stu knows that she's sorry, and at this Eliza comes down the stairs curious to know when she'll be getting home. Squirrel, shouts Homeless Stu, and then he runs out the back door. Alia meets Dee Dee and Nina's Rolls and explains the developments. Dee Dee thinks this is the fruit of their hard work, and while Stu might be upset now, he'll be able to clear his name and hold his head up high, letting those beautiful silvery locks just
Cascade down his shoulders.
and move with the breeze.
Yes, and
flashing those
smile
lovely baby blues.
And smiling with those perfect pearly whites.
But Homeless Stu's frantic. He reckons he's already served time for this and justice has been served, and he contemplates turning himself in again. How is this justice exactly? Asks Yasmin. She tells Homeless Stu not to be such a sap. And later Bridget calls and reveals that Lucy has been charged with perverting the course of justice, oddly not aiding and abetting or improper burial or concealing evidence or anything like that. And
I think that's all covered under perverting the course of justice, isn't it?
Oh, do you think?
Yeah.
And Bridget has been charged with murder, even though it wasn't premeditated and it's clearly manslaughter. And they have an inflatable toy for a solicitor, so they've pleaded guilty and they'll remain in custody until they're suspended. And I'm like, oh, for the love of God.
Well, if you plead guilty, then you'll get a lighter sentence.
Yeah, but if you steal some batteries out of a shop and you get charged with murder, you're not going to admit to that. And your lawyer's going to say, wait a minute, I don't think the murder charge is really relevant here. Surely it should be just a shoplifting charge. Because murder is premeditated, and this was not premeditated.
She didn't steal batteries, she killed someone.
Yeah, but she didn't murder anybody.
No, you're right. It wasn't premeditated, but you know, she's under so much guilt because of what happened to her dad.
But her lawyer should be saying, keep your mouth shut here.
Yeah. Well, they're just shoving this through as quickly as possible.
And this is my problem with it.
So that we can get to teenage stuff in another storyline and maybe, I don't know, solve another murder that has also happened on the street, only more recently.
They're remaining in custody until sentencing. You think, well, that's going to be a few weeks then, right? Homeless Stu thinks this is too cruel given how they've just got back in each other's lives. Bridget asks him to look after Eliza, even though she's only seen him 4 times in 30 years. Homeless Stu doesn't know how he'll be able to look after an 11-year-old. He can barely look after himself, he says, putting his fingers through that lovely, lovely hair.
Right.
Yasmin tells him that together they'll work it out.
Aw.
Meanwhile, Alia bonds with Eliza on Hurdle.
Hurdle, yes.
Hurdle.
I've played Hurdle. You've played Hurdle, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the one where you've got to identify Amber Heard in 5 guesses or less, right?
No. That's
Amber Hurdle.
That's
what that is.
that's like that joke aged like sour milk 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago.
I think that's
Holy crap.
what's got going in its favour.
Right. It's like, Name That Tune. It's the electronic version of Name That Tune. Where
the actual Hurdle, yeah.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Alia bonds with Eliza so that Homeless Stu won't insist on making her move out. So later, Bridget calls back, and on speakerphone, she explains to Eliza that she'll not be coming home anytime soon. Homeless Pop will be looking after her, and she goes to tell the truth, although we don't get to hear that because it would sound utterly ridiculous. And on Wednesday, in Nina's Rolls, Dee Dee is chatting to Homeless Stu. She apologises for the mess, but points out that he'll be exonerated soon, and then he can walk with his head held high.
We know it would sound ridiculous because it was ridiculous the first time we heard
ridiculous. But I loved Eliza's face as she's looking at the speakerphone thinking, what on earth, what is this bullshit that they're about to serve up to me right here?
Right.
Back home we learn that Bridget has been sentenced already. That took 24 hours. She's got 15 years and Lucy got 20. Fucking hell, says Yasmin. How did that happen? So Lucy gets 5 more years for covering up than Bridget gets for actually doing it.
Because Bridget was a minor. when she killed someone.
So stupid.
And instead of going to the police, the
I mean-
adult in the room said, "Let's hide this."
I mean-
I can kind of understand that.
This is happening on Wednesday. The timeline of the show, they've been in custody for, I think, 48 hours. They've pleaded guilty and they've been sentenced already, and that's them away. That's them in jail. It's like,
Bye.
It's like, for goodness sake, you couldn't cut any more corners in this. That was just.
Again, so much like House of the Dragon.
But how are we, or why are we? Is this just so Eliza's in the show now, and Eliza has to live with homeless Stu? Is that what all this is about?
I don't know.
Because I don't think the homeless
Do we
Stu
need another
storyline was
little-
needing another little girl.
Do we need another little girl on the street?
I mean, don't get me wrong.
What we need is more lesbians.
Eliza seems a lovely, precocious little girl.
Yes.
I don't know that she's exactly necessary at this point, and I don't know that she's necessary in the homeless Stu storyline.
The sheen is slightly off of her this week, though, because this week she's not this sweet little girl who thinks that her pop-pop's amazing and, you know, they like all the same kind of music and stuff. She actually acts like a kid this week, going, "What the fuck is going on here? I don't know if I want to live with you, homeless pop-pop."
Yeah, but then there's a knock at the door, and it's social services who are there to tell homeless Stu that until he's been fully exonerated, Eliza will be put into care, possibly into a workhouse where she will be fed gruel.
Right, yes, because let's remember from previous storylines, the worse we can make social services look,
The better.
and heartless, the better.
Yeah, she can't stay with her granddad who has served his time. Let's
Right,
remember.
yes, let's remember, has served his time. She can't stay with a living relative who has served his time. She must be put with people she doesn't know.
Right.
And also, social services can't be arsed when they call to say somebody from social services is coming to let them know why somebody from social services is coming.
This was another great little bit where the social worker comes in and Eliza says, "I'm going to go away with the social worker. I'm going to live with the social worker. I don't know the social
Right.
worker." And they're like, "No, it's much worse than that. You're going to go to a third party who you
Right,
don't
yes.
know. But this lady that you don't know is going to take you to other people that you don't know."
Right, yes.
If only
After-
Imran was still alive.
After the rug has been pulled out from underneath you to find out that your mother and your grandmother killed your pop-pop's girlfriend
It's a
30
story
years ago.
as old as time.
It's like, what? It's really too bad that Toya can't be a foster parent.
That's what I'm
anymore.
saying. Yeah, if Imran was still alive, then she'd be going to Imran and Toya. But Toya's off running about with this Griff character, I guess.
Is she? I
No.
thought, no, she's
that's-
back with,
that's-
what's his name? Spider.
Yeah, we'll come to the one mention
We
that gets this
we
week.
don't remember it because it happened over a month ago and we haven't seen either one of them since.
Eliza wants to stay with homeless Stu if she can't stay with her mum, and if she can't stay with her gran, and if she can't stay with her friends. But since when did a wee lassie get what she wants and she's taken away, kicking and screaming by the social worker?
Never on this street.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much of this that I really... I mean, again, in summary, this is a story about characters that we don't know killing somebody that we don't know a long time ago.
Right.
It's essentially what the storyline's about. But now we've got Eliza, who has now been taken away.
Right, yeah.
So-
who we've just met and now is being taken away because her pop-up served time for a crime he didn't commit, and we already know he didn't commit it, but he already served the time.
I'm just not sure what the
what
point
is-
of any of this is.
None of this makes any sense. Just like House of the Dragon.
Oh, you stop going on about House of the Dragon. It's not going to be any better just because you keep on going on about it.
No, it's actually going to be worse.
Right. It's just so hard to get enthusiastic or anything other than utterly frustrated by this storyline.
Yeah.
And it's been going on for ages. And
Right.
it's just never been important, and it's never made all that much sense. And now as it stands at the end of this week, he has met and lost his granddaughter, and his daughter and ex-wife are going to be spending decades in jail.
Right.
And that's the sum total of let's make Homeless Stu a murderer.
And yet
Brainwave.
he's not yet exonerated, even though they've charged other people with the crime that he
They're in jail
supposedly
now.
committed. Yeah, they're already in jail. What else does he need to do to get exonerated? What is there like an official ceremony? And that's going to take more time because King Charles doesn't know how to do it yet. The little ceremony that says you're exonerated now, you are no longer a bad guy.
I don't think the king needs to get involved in this.
Well, he's got to do something.
I suppose. Moving on to our next storyline this evening is Bernie at the Double.
Another stupid fucking storyline.
Now, I kind of enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it before. I now hate it.
Oh, really? Well, let's find out why.
Most of it.
On Monday, Nina Rolls Ryan is preparing for a vinyl fair in Rill.
I know. I'm really excited. I want to go.
Okay. He explains to Bernie how there's money to be made with collectibles. Bernie asks him round to hers later because she has a few rarities in her collection, and she doesn't mean that in her knickers way or a porno way.
No.
Later, she speaks to Gemma, announcing that her job interview has been blown off, following advice from Fern from last week.
Right.
That was when Fern told Bernie that the agency are a bunch of crooks.
Right.
Don't you bother.
Right.
So Ryan visits her later, and after thumbing through some utter atrocities, he finds a white label single that might be worth something. He goes off to speak to a mate about how much it might be worth.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, though, we see Fern at the job interview, and she's all dressed up as Bernie, and she's kind of talking a bit like Bernie as well.
A little.
Where she's offered a job for a high-end client looking for a start today. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Winter, the interviewer says.
Yes, because this is how high-end clients get their cleaners.
Right. Call me Bernie, says Fern. In the pub, Bernie learns from Ryan that the single might be worth 600 quid.
I know.
She agrees to sell it at the vinyl fair in Rill. Bernie's luck is a changing.
Yay.
And at closing time, Fern turns up at a jeweller where she will be left to her own devices on the first day of her job.
This is the high-end client of this cleaning operation that's run by this man in a vest who in a teeny tiny cramped office. Mm-hmm. This high-end jewelry store who you would think would already have a cleaner.
The guy who runs the agency looks like he should be a woodwork teacher.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
He looks like my old woodworking teacher, Mr. Fournier. I haven't thought about him in years.
My woodwork teacher
I think he had that vest.
Had a glass eye.
Was it from a woodworking accident?
One assumes, but no one was brave enough to ask him. So yeah, she turns up at this jeweller where she'll be left alone to her own devices on her first day on the job, and she's told to keep the door locked, and when the owner leaves, Fern's face lights up like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
Now, when jewelry stores are closed, what traditionally happens in jewelry stores when they are closed? We've walked by jewelry stores before when they have been closed in like malls and things, right? Do they have all the jewelry out on display when they are closed?
Well, they pulled down the shutters. I know that much. They pulled down like the metal barriers and stuff, right?
And they take all the jewelry and they lock it up in the back. This guy has just met her.
Yep.
And he's leaving her alone with all of this jewelry, not locked up in the back. What is going on here? And why are they not open in the middle of the day?
Well, that's on Wednesday.
What's going on here?
Because at Nina's Rolls, Bernie gets a call from Fern, seemingly asking what her plans are for the rest of the day. Bernie explains that she has the afternoon off, so they arranged to meet at the Quad House later. And Fern is back at the jeweller again, cleaning during business hours until the boss nips off for his lunch and shuts the shop up, leaving Fern inside. And as soon as he's gone, she pulls up her hood and starts pilfering all the jewels and watches and stuff into a Freshco bag. She's seen by CCTV, but obviously doesn't care, and then heads out the back exit.
Now, jewelry stores typically have more than one person working in them.
They typically don't shut for lunch either.
No. You would have somebody else there working and would toggle your lunch breaks.
And you'd have
One
it
would
open
assume.
for the lunchtime rush.
Right. Because, there are men who decide on their lunchtime to propose to their longtime girlfriends because every day is a rom-com.
I would say that jewellers are going to get more trade during the lunch hours than they are going to at like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Right, because businessmen need to buy apology gifts for their wives and thank you for the sex gifts for their mistresses.
That's right, because it's a 1970s sitcom.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Bernie has turned up at the Rovers, furious that Fern was supposed to meet her at home but then didn't show up, the stupid cow. And she meets up with Dev later and they head back home to get their hold, but on the way, they're stopped by the cops who arrest Bernie for robbery. Again, it's not Tinker.
Right, yeah. They arrest her for robbery. Let's all remember, this robbery just happened that day, correct?
Yes.
And the woman in the CCTV video is wearing a pink hoodie because that's what you wear when you work in a high-end jewelry store as a cleaner.
Yeah.
Is a pink hoodie.
Down at the station, Bernie's shown the CCTV. She insists that isn't her, but the copper says, well, it looks like you to me.
Yeah, not wearing the same clothes that you're wearing right now, and you wouldn't have had time to have changed.
Bernie twigs and realises it's her doppelganger. It's a woman called Fern. This is a stitch-up. She's been framed. Either way, Bernie will be spending a night in the cells, and she's not even drunk and disorderly. On Friday, in the cop shop, Bernie is sticking to her story to a disbelieving PC and blaming herself for falling for the bait, calling this the perfect crime. She tells the copper to do her fucking job and track this Fern down.
Do your fucking job. Do your due diligence. It's a blonde, middle-aged woman on the screen wearing clothes that Bernie is not wearing. It doesn't look that much like her.
Yeah, it does.
And she's wearing different clothes, and you're not going to follow up
Bernie's
at all.
clothes, though.
And also, well, the cop doesn't know that.
This is true.
And why does it take Bernie so long to say, she called me? And also, during this time and this time, I was at the pub and I was over here. I was at work in my other job. She says these things, but it doesn't register.
She was also at home alone with no alibi for a long period of time, though. But there's something more that's problematic with this storyline. But we'll get there.
There's so much problematic with this storyline.
And
Where do we begin?
Gemma's on the phone to the cop shop, but she can't get any more information out of them. She tells Dev that robbery like this is far too risky, even for her mum. Dev is doing a stock take and doesn't seem too concerned that his girlfriend has been lifted. And during the Bernie storyline, let's quickly just mention that Chesney, Todd, and later Kirk and Jacob chat about refugees and asylum seekers.
Oh, God, that was
in a very not heavy-handed manner.
It's fucking Steve explaining racism to Tim all over again, isn't it?
Yep.
And, you know, Asha and Amy and Summer explaining misogyny to Max all over again.
Yeah. This time Jacob was explaining the difference between an asylum seeker and a refugee.
Again, I'm happy to see Jacob.
Yes.
I'm happy to see him, but he's doing a fair job of explaining it. But the thing that gets me here is Todd and Chesney having this conversation out of the blue. There are no refugees on the street. Nobody's walking by with a sign over their head saying, I'm a refugee.
No, to be fair, Chesney did see that there was a little box of stuff that Maria was collecting for refugees, and that's what triggered the conversation.
Yeah, he mentions that she's collecting for refugees.
But it sounded to me like Chesney was about to start complaining about refugees.
Well, Todd is complaining.
Chesney was about to get all UKIP and get his little Fisher Price binoculars out and head down to Dover and start looking for small boats.
Todd is complaining about the fact that every time he turns around, people are collecting for charities. Why are there so many charities? Charities. He's fucking right out of a Charles Dickens novel, is our Todd.
Chesney, though, is very, very right-wing.
They're both right-wing, let's be honest.
I think Todd was practicing a little 5-minute stand-up routine that he had on charities.
Todd's right-wing, but
You think so?
he's one of those self-hating gays. I just, when have these two ever had a conversation between the two of them about anything before now? Todd and Chesney. I know Todd has just picked up food, but Are they close enough to be having this conversation? Doesn't Chesney have to go back inside and do his job?
I think on Monday they're going to talk about trans rights together. Anyway, back at the cop shop, Bernie comes clean and gives the cops Fern's address and phone number and confesses about standing in for Fern at the speed awareness course.
Right.
If she's admitting this, surely this proves she's on the level, but the
Right.
copper isn't falling for it and thinks that she's the one trying to set this poor Fern up.
Right, because let's remember, not only are social services the devil, the police, and please ignore what I said about the police earlier tonight.
Which
the
was
police,
fuck the police, yes?
Yes, it was fuck the police.
Just checking.
Police are stupid and are dumb and don't know how to interrogate people properly or even do their jobs, because this cop is saying to Bernie, it's your job to prove your innocence. And it's not her job to prove her innocence. There's this thing, and I know we have it in the UK as well as the US. It's called innocent until proven guilty. It is on the cops to prove her guilty. And it takes more than CCTV of a woman with a hood up. They have not checked fingerprints. They have not
away
done
with your fingerprints.
any DNA.
It's like DNA is going to come into this.
There would be Fern's DNA in that shop.
Nobody's testing fuck all for DNA in this
Nobody is doing fuck all except for yelling at poor Bernie.
Because we have the CCTV, and unless you can come up with a better story, you're going up in front of the magistrate on this.
But you can't just say that's a blonde woman with your build wearing clothes similar to yours.
With your name,
That's got to be you.
With your name.
How did that even happen? Because even if she knows her name, does she have her identification and everything?
Well, she had the bank statement. I think that's what that was for.
Right, but that doesn't prove that she's her. And running like all of the tax information and everything. This is, oh God, this whole thing
This
is
still
just,
isn't the worst part about the story, and I'm amazed we haven't talked about it yet. Bernie reckons it's a matter of time before Fern finds another doppelganger. That's a stretch. Later, the cops have had no luck tracking Fern down. The number that Bernie gave them was out of service.
doesn't matter. She called her from that number. Bernie, show them your phone. Show them that you got a call from that number the other day. That's proof right there.
Bernie points out that if she did rob the jewellers, where's the jewels? The cops let her go, but tell her not to start any box sets. So Bernie gets home, pissed off that no one tried to get her out, which I thought was pretty funny.
It was funny.
She tells Gemma and Chesney that she didn't do it, but they, and all four quads, look unconvinced.
Right,
There's-
on leashes.
There's Ivor the quad, Jones the quad, Daffod the quad, Cleo the quad, and Gwen the quad.
And also Frodo and Bilbo, the quads.
Bernie brings everyone up to speed with her shenanigans with Fern and explains the money coming her ways from selling that white label. But
Right.
they still don't believe her, so Bernie leaves in a huff. And Dev meets Bernie at the Rovers later. She explains her story to him, and Dev decides to believe her this time because
Yeah.
he tried disbelieving her last time, and that didn't work out too well.
Right, and also he wants to continue to enjoy getting his hole.
This time, he's on her side, and this Fern bitch has messed with the wrong people. That's as far as we get with that this week.
And that was very sweet. I liked that part of the story and nothing else.
Okay, so I think you've made it clear what you
Also-
think's wrong on this. Here's what I think's wrong with this. Now, Bernie was going to get an interview with a cleaning company.
Right,
Fern catches wind of this
right,
and says, "Don't go. I'm going to go."
right,
So she goes and
Right.
gets a job.
right.
At what point does she know that this job is going to be for a cleaning jewelers?
She doesn't.
She doesn't.
And that is yes, that is the worst thing about this.
That's the worst part about
That is
this.
the most ridiculous part of this because she has no idea. She has no idea.
All she's doing as
None.
far as she's concerned is getting a job that Bernie would have got, but she doesn't look like she needs a job like that.
Right. Yeah. We were led to believe that she is a wealthy woman. I am assuming she has gambling debts because she likes the
Yeah,
ponies.
she likes the ponies.
She does like the ponies. So I can see why maybe this high end. remember when this all started and we thought it was going to be this sweet, charming story about Bernie having a doppelganger?
Yeah.
And it was going to be funny, and they were going to maybe trade places a few times, and we'd get some comedy out of it. Because let's remember, Bernie is a comedy character.
Yep.
And what this world needs right now, more than anything, is it Murder's Broom?
Murder's Broom? What's Murder's Broom?
Is it Murders, Broom?
Oh, why are you calling me Broom? No.
Is it Teenage Pregnancy Broom?
It needs pregnancy. The world does need pregnancy. But
The world does
need...
not need pregnancy right now. Let's be honest.
doesn't need
The
it.
world needs to cut back on some pregnancies.
Right.
Why does this
was-
show not give us what we want? We want comedy, and we want sweet stories where Roy finds his dead wife's anorak. That's what we want.
I think
Give us what we want.
this might yet turn out to be a comedy story.
It's fucking ridiculous,
It is
Broom.
ridiculous, but I don't think that I'm not enjoying this being called Broom Malarkey.
I'm mad, so I'm calling you Broom.
But the whole
You can call me Broom.
all the problems with the police procedural, because they're never going to get a police procedural 100% right, because it's not that show. And
They don't try.
They don't. Maybe they try. Maybe they don't try.
They don't try.
But at the moment, to me, it's the storyline already doesn't make sense before we even get to that. So
Correct.
there's nothing that the police do that's going to make this make sense.
No.
Because it already doesn't make sense.
Correct.
Because Fern should not. How can she plan this when she doesn't know where she's going to be working? And the whole opening and closing times of a jeweler's just is only there because the plot dictates it.
Right.
And come on, we're better than this.
And
we're better than
we
this.
all know that jewelry stores, when they close, they lock everything up. They don't leave it out on display. And especially with someone that they don't know.
Yeah.
They haven't checked her credentials. They're just depending upon this place that hired her just today to do this very important job.
This high-end client that she had no idea who they
Right. Yeah.
were. Talking about leaving it all out for display, our next storyline is Tim's Boaby. On Monday.
This at least.
Well, nothing really controversial happened here, right?
No.
Poor Tim is still in the bad books with Sally, who hands back the boring necklace of the week from a couple of weeks ago. And it eventually comes out that Tim bought Aggie the necklace of the week from a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Of course, this makes Sally angrier. Tim says he's sorry for not confiding in Sally, but he did with Aggie, who has a medical background given that she's a nurse.
Right.
Sally wants a more trusting relationship and she storms off.
Right. Yeah. She's mad because she says she'd rather Tim talk to Steve and Peter about his medical problems
Yes.
than a registered nurse.
Yes. Meanwhile, at the Bailey house, Ed has found out that Aggie was with Tim while James was nearly dying. Ed, who had previously looked upon this fairly calmly, is now thinking that she's let Tim come between her and her family, and this changes everything, except that's not what she did. She was temporarily unavailable.
Right.
She didn't know that James was about to die and chose to chat to Tim about his penis instead.
No.
That didn't happen.
No.
She was just temporarily
They were baking
unavailable.
something.
In Nina's roles, Sally runs into Aggie and insists to sit down and talk about the elephant in the room. Reluctantly, Aggie agrees, but
Tim's Boaby is the elephant in the room.
yes, but all Sally wants to do is throw barbs at Aggie, telling her maybe she should focus on her own relationship with Ed rather than interfere in someone else's marriage. And this seems to really hurt Aggie. She's kind of moving about like she's been everybody's punch bag today.
And yeah.
And she goes to the builder's yard and tells Ed that she loves him, and he says that he loves her too. And they sit together and chat to each other about how their days went, and they hold hands.
Right. And how shit the NHS is.
Back home, Sally is giving Tim a harder time of it though, refusing his suggestion of some intimacy exercises and lamenting that he didn't do his usual effort of buying her petrol station chocolates for her birthday after all. And that's as far as we get with that this week. Sally's being
So Sally
quite
continues to be
unreasonable.
awful.
Yeah.
I had this hope when she suggests to Aggie that they sit down and talk.
All she wanted to do was shout at Aggie.
Right. Yeah. Because Aggie is sitting there and she's very calmly saying very reasonable things about, yes, it's very important to be honest with your partner, but sometimes you need to vent to someone who is not your partner so that you don't hurt your partner's feelings.
Right.
and that she calls her sisters all the time. And Sally just explodes at her because Tim's not her sister.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the whole women and men can't be friends.
It's that
bullshit.
again. Yes.
And yet there are men on the street who are friends with women they've been intimate with even, and have talked about the problems in their home life and their marriages. Look at Peter and Toya.
I was just about to say Peter and Toy just sharing some moments in the community
Right.
garden talking about.
Yeah.
And then Peter and Leanne
Right.
as well sharing some moments together.
Right. If they didn't have that, men and women on the street would not talk to one another.
No, it's just
The way she whips that necklace at his head, like she's trying to take it off his head, not the necklace because it's already off.
right.
It's just
Sally was not in the loop.
No.
Basically, is what she's really.
and how
really,
dare she not be in the loop?
Right.
Because she's Sally, she needs to be in the loop at all times, and that's fucking ridiculous.
It is kind of Sally though.
Nobody is in the loop all the time.
No.
I was saying to Benny earlier, who is our son and not our spouse, obviously, because that would be creepy. But, we were talking about how it would be nice if we talked to one another a little bit more. But then I made the caveat. I was like, look, I don't need to know everything about your life because you're a 16-year-old boy. You don't need to be telling everything in your life to your mom. It's okay for family members to not talk about everything with one another. And you'd think Sally, a mature woman, would know that.
It's just hurt feelings, basically, isn't it? She's got hurt feelings and it's making her act irrationally, which is kind of Sally.
Because she's a woman.
Well, she's kind of Sally.
Because look at Ed. Ed at first is upset because of the whole James thing. But then in less than 10 minutes, he's okay again because they talk rationally to one another because they are mature adults who love one another and are secure in their marriage, which Sally should be with Tim after all they've been through. Sally didn't find out that one of her children was dying while Tim was hanging out with Aggie.
But not like that.
Right. Yeah. But not like that. It's just, it's the whole hysterical woman thing again. And I'm over it.
Yeah, it's Sally, though.
She's supposed to be smart.
She's supposed to be high maintenance.
She is a bit arrogant. But she's also supposed to be smart and one of the more mature people on the street.
It's hurt feelings. People do irrational things with hurt feelings.
That's true.
But let's all just remain thankful that Aggie and Tim probably aren't going to be having an affair at this point.
Thank God.
Moving on, the next storyline is Canadian Psycho.
Are you going to play the music again?
Can if you want. This is me playing this, by the way.
Yeah.
This
You're doing
isn't-
a good job.
This isn't the Halloween theme tune. This is me playing this.
Yeah. Good job.
It's 5/4 time.
Because that's Psycho.
That's my favourite bit. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Yes.
Again. On Wednesday, Stephen drops into the hair salon to see Audrey and shits his pants when he sees Gabrielle is there getting her hair done.
That was hilarious, the whole reveal of whose hair she was doing, because they're very good with those camera angles so that you don't see the face of the person
Right.
sitting there.
I actually forgot who that was. Audrey nips off for a shite and Stephen asks Gabrielle if this is a threat. She says as soon as she gets her money, she'll be out of his hair. No pun intended. None noticed. She leaves, and when Audrey comes back, she assumes that Stephen has the hot still for Gabrielle. Stephen quickly changes the subject to the memorial thing in another storyline and a Zoom call that he needs to dial into, and this makes Audrey say Zoom quite a bit.
Zoom, 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 zoom.
So in the Rovers, Stephen gets on the phone to his people and demands to know how long the equity release thing is going to take to come through, and unsatisfied by the answer he gets, he tells them that he's going to phone them again tomorrow. On Friday, Nina's rolls, Audrey's chatting with Gabrielle, who is bumming her up. Gabrielle wants to know why Audrey wanted to meet, and Audrey stalls a little longer until Stephen comes in. And Stephen's apparently there to meet Audrey as well. And she's arranged for them both to have breakfast together, saying it's obvious that they have unfinished business to take care of. Audrey,
Which is not
It's not untrue. Audrey quickly leaves, and Stephen pretends that he has a conference call to attend to, and he leaves too.
Yeah, he's so bad at faking that call.
Yeah. In the Rovers, Jenny's chatting about Stephen and her efforts in trying to find Sinkhole Leo. This seems to have included watching a Wayne Gretzky documentary and some Degrassi Junior High. Stephen,
Excellent show. I love Degrassi.
It was the kids at Degrassi Street when I watched it. Was that was separate from Degrassi Junior High, I think.
I think it was like a sequel.
A prequel, I would say. I think Kids Off came before
And
Junior High.
and then after Degrassi High, it was just Degrassi.
Yeah.
Drake was on that.
Who?
Drake, the singer. You know Drake?
I'm unfamiliar with his work.
We've talked about him in the list of lists.
Oh, have we?
Yeah,
I should be paying more attention then.
maybe.
Stephen thinks Leo is punishing Jenny, but will come round eventually. Stephen seems to be taking this being a murderer in his stride now. None of this behaviour is like Sinkhole Leo. She reckons something is wrong, and she's not going to rest until she finds out what. Stephen arranges to meet Audrey in the Rovers later and tells her to back all the way off with Gabrielle. The two of them are history, and the less he has to deal with her, the better.
Wow, wow, wow.
Aye,
Wow.
right, says Audrey. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Later, Stephen goes through the back of the Rovers and tells Jenny that Sinkhole Leo isn't worth her effort after he ghosted her like that, and maybe he could get... maybe she should get herself some more Canadian bacon, if you know what I mean. But then Sinkhole Leo's dad bursts in, unsurprised to see Stephen there. And he hasn't heard from his son either, and neither have his friends. It's like he's vanished off the face of the earth, and maybe it's time to call the police,
Gulp?
says Stephen, unsuspiciously.
Yeah, he says the gulp part unsuspiciously.
Yeah.
Not the maybe we should call the police part unsuspiciously.
And that's as far as we get with that
Yeah.
this week.
It was nice when, the Sinkhole Leo's dad bursts in and he's all mad. But then once he sees Jenny's face and hears Jenny say, I haven't heard from him either, and I try all the time, that he starts to seem like really genuinely concerned. And also he softens a bit to Jenny, which was nice.
This is an interesting little conundrum for them, though, because as far as they're concerned, he's now living in Canada.
Right.
And if he doesn't want to be found, he can make it very difficult for them to find him.
Right, but it is weird that he just dropped off the face of the planet and nobody's heard from him.
Cut all ties.
And if they dig a little deeper and find out he wasn't on that flight, if they do call the police and the police look into it and he wasn't on that flight, then the plot thickens, because in this day and age, for someone to to disappear this completely is nigh impossible. With CCTV and ATM machines and social media, even if it's not your own social media, you will statistically be walking sometime this week by other people you don't know and accidentally have your photo taken.
There is the book, How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found, which became a Radiohead song.
Mm-hmm. That was well before social media, though.
I don't know if it was well before it. And then there's what's the program, the Hunters or something, where people try and evade.
Yeah, that lasted like what, one season?
Oh, it's such a good show. I loved it.
You did. I remember that.
I think they brought it back. I think they brought it back for another season.
Yeah.
Celebrity
but it was
Hunters or whatever it was
But it
called.
was difficult, and they found all of those people because it's really hard to do.
The one guy who evaded them did so by mistake.
Right.
Everything that he did was just luck or by mistake, but he managed to evade them.
Although they've done a new season of Unsolved Mysteries that just came out, and this woman they're still looking for who shot her boyfriend in the head and then dismembered him into 3 pieces, and they found the 3 bags with the 3 bits of him along the Ohio Turnpike, would you believe?
We're very familiar with that.
And they still haven't found her. So
Oh yeah, that's the important part of it. Not
right.
that I recognise the road. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be. We'll get some more of this next week, hopefully, when Leo's dad does go to the police, because who's Stephen to him? He's not going to take his advice.
No.
And
In fact,
nor should he.
In fact, he's he does not like Stephen.
No, it's very distrusting of Stephen.
So, of course, he's not going to take his advice.
But I just find it remarkable that Stephen now, after the kind of mental torment that he was going through when Cinco Leo fell dead into a bin,
Right.
he seems to have kind of gotten himself over that
Glossed over that.
quite smoothly.
It was-
Hence the Canadian Psycho.
Right. Yeah. And thinking that Canadian bacon is a good metaphor for his penis.
It's streaky
And flat.
and salty.
And pink.
And I think that's all the attributes we need to list. Yeah, I'm
It's not like hide the sausage.
I'm kind of keen. I'm kind of keen to see actually where this ends up.
Do you think he'll murder again?
I've got a feeling that he might, and I've got a
Or
feeling
at least
that
try.
maybe Cinco Leo's dad should be treading a little carefully here.
Well, I think the people who need to worry the most at the moment are Audrey and his wife.
Audrey definitely, yeah, and yeah.
And, I don't really like his wife either, who walks into Nina's Rolls and orders a latte with like a fancy name.
It was
and,
an espresso with hot milk.
Right, yeah.
can't
Instead of
remember the name
saying
of
an espresso with hot milk, she says this hoity-toity thing that Shona is never going to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, go fuck yourself, lady.
Although she did know who some footballers were, so remember that time that Shona got shot in the stomach and ended up with
Brain damage?
brain damage.
Yes.
Yeah. Our penultimate storyline tonight is second-hand sex cardigan. On Monday at home, Daisy has encouraged Daniel to empty all his shite clothes out of the cupboard for Summer's clothes swap thing that she's got going on. He has lots of Sinead stuff which she has a good old sniff off before telling Daisy that maybe it's time to let it go.
Bye-bye, sex cardigan.
Sinead was into recycling after all. You do you, says Daisy, diplomatically and light-heartedly. So Daisy and Daniel hand over the bags of clothes to a very happy Summer. Daniel looks on wistfully as Summer walks away with bags of Sinead's stuff.
Including the sex cardigan.
And on Wednesday, Daniel and Daisy turn up at Summer's clothes event shite thing, Daisy donating some old jackets that will be important later on. There's some brief conversation about throwing Sinead's stuff out. Daniel insists it's fine, he's got lots more clothes and photos to remind him of his dead wife. And Bertie, says Daisy. Yes, says Daniel. And Bertie. Where is Bertie? And then on Friday,
He's with Pop Pop.
after 6 months out of work, Daniel suddenly has some interviews lined up, seemingly in PR, much to Daisy's amusement. After this, he asks her to move in with him, which makes her squeal in delight or terror. It's impossible to tell which.
No.
To the back in the Rovers, Daisy explains that the idea of moving into Sinead's old flat doesn't exactly make her moist in anticipation. She'd prefer something that wasn't so entirely Daniel's. And Jenny listens on interestedly.
Right, yeah. Well, she does care about Daisy's life.
In the Rovers later, Daniel reveals that he failed all 4 interviews. Finally, a storyline I can believe in. Then in a, oh, didn't I tell you sort of way, he reveals that his tenants, presumably at his mum's house, are moving out. And then he has to rush off to pick up Bertie. Back home, Daniel's about to phone the estate agents about the new tenants. Daisy tells him not to be too hasty, thinking that the new house could be the new chapter that he's been looking for. A new chapter for both of them. Daniel thinks she could be onto something here. But maybe their wires are crossed, because he then shows her a picture that Bertie drew of Daisy moving in. And Bertie gets what Bertie wants,
Right.
says Daniel, somewhat ominously.
Right.
And that's
Paul's
as far
in
as
the
we get with
picture
that.
as well,
Yes.
because Paul's a member of the family.
So I'm glad we're remembering that he's got this big fancy fuck-off house that's...
Right, that's just sitting, well, it's not sitting empty, it's got tenants in it.
Well, it used to.
It's better than the Undertaker's big, massive, empty house.
That we're not talking about
They were
anymore.
Yeah, that not even Glinda is staying in.
Right.
Because we saw everybody sitting on the stairs.
There was 9 people in that photograph, I think, wasn't there? There was Eileen, George, Todd, Sean, Dylan, Mary,
And Glenda.
Glenda. Just 7?
7.
Just 7 people.
Just 7 people in the Toty house. Meanwhile, the Undertaker has a big old house just sitting empty.
Yep. It was a stair's worth of people. It was a great photo, though.
It was a great photo. It's a very dumb premise.
Yeah. I don't know where we're going with this kind of cross wires thing.
I do.
Or do you?
I don't approve.
I'm not even pretending that you don't know then.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what it is, but I'll just say it's the most convoluted mess of a storyline I have ever seen. And I watched Corrie this week.
Well, that can't be true. That can't possibly be true. Yeah,
It's another Three's Company scenario.
well, I assumed that these crossed wires are going to be amplified, but I don't know. I'm still liking Daisy though. I'm much preferring Daisy these days than I did before.
And I like their relationship. I think they are very cute together. I think they have chemistry.
I think they do. Yeah, I agree.
It's a good fit for both of them. I think they both kind of fill out the gaps in one another in a very nice way. And I'm happy that their storylines, as of now, have been sweet and charming and nice.
What I'm liking as well about Daisy's work situation now is we've got Jenny, Daisy, and Glenda working at the pub, and you need somebody to hate,
Right.
and they both seem to hate Glenda,
Right.
and Glenda either doesn't recognise it or
doesn't
chooses to
care.
ignore it,
Right.
and that's just making that little dynamic chemistry thing work particularly well in the pub at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
Long may that continue.
Right. Yeah. And we even have Gemma in the mix, who loves everybody.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the
And-
healing bridge.
She does love Glenda and her stories about the
Right.
cruises.
And she does love Daisy and Jenny, obviously. Where's Sean?
Don't ask these questions, you.
I'm surprised
Look
don't.
what happened when you asked where Chesney was.
I'm surprised we don't see Sean's peacock shirt in the clothing swap.
That and Paul's unicorn.
Well, we do see that.
Rainbow unicorn onesie, which we do see, and we see it in this
Which
our
makes me very
final
sad.
storyline, Summer of '69.
What?
On Monday.
Wait. That's not how you make a baby, my darling.
What? On Monday, in Nina's roles, Summer is pitching her clothes swap jumble thing to Daisy, who agrees to organise a bag of her old stuff for it and eventually gives her a jacket or two. Summer is made up, what with Daisy being a style icon and influencer and all that. Paul donates his budgie smugglers and is sad to add his rainbow unicorn onesie to the batch.
Yeah, after having his cheetah print thong rejected by Summer.
And Summer meets up with a weird woman who's organising the swap. It's Esther's her name. And hands over the stuff. Summer explains that she appreciates the project as it's kept her mind occupied following her breakup. And the woman informs Summer that she knows what it's like, given that she and her hubby are going through a tough time at the moment as well. Summer is only interested in her own problems, says Addie. She doesn't care about mine, and I got fucking shot. On Wednesday, the clothes swap is in full swing, Billy dropping off a couple of bin bags of body parts. Asha is concerned for
And
Summer,
polo shirts.
who is putting on a brave face, by which we mean she's depressed as fuck. Carla and Peter happen along, and once Carla's satisfied that they're not selling second-hand knickers, they're encouraged to donate too.
But they are selling bras.
Yeah, Nina and Asha both claim first dibs on Carla's stuff, which I quite liked.
Yes.
And then Peter said that he's off to a protest with Griff later, which means that Griff is still a thing.
Right, yes. And I think we need to address the fact that both Daisy and Carla, in speaking to their significant Barlows, mention the fact that some of their clothes aren't fitting very well and that they have tummy aches.
Oh, yes, that's important as well.
That is important, believe it or not.
Later, Summer looks on wistfully as Aaron leaves Nina Rolls and heads to the garage. Asha sees this and follows him over, explaining how Summer was a bit upset that he didn't come to say hello. Aaron explains that he does care for Summer, but he has to focus on his dad. And when Asha reports back on this, Summer is disappointed that she doesn't mean more to him than his dad. Well, maybe if you didn't continually break up every 5 minutes,
Right.
you would do.
Yes. And apparently his dad is now in a rehabilitation
Which
program.
he said he would never do, so that's progress.
Right, that
isn't
is
it, Helen?
progress. And
Yeah.
if he's staying at this rehabilitation program, then Aaron really doesn't have to do anything for his dad right now, does he? Except for run the Roomba through the room every once in a while.
Later, Carla comes along and she too drops off some jackets while Daisy remembers that she's an influencer, so starts taking selfies at a jumble sale. Gemma comes along and picks up a denim jacket for a knockdown price, although she does try and haggle against a charity. She heads into Nina's rolls to show it off to Chesney, who recognises that it's a new item of clothing and remembers to say how nice it is.
Right, and also worry about how much it may have cost.
Gemma takes it off, throws it on a chair, and then heads off for a shite. And as soon as she's gone, her phone rings, and Chesney goes into her pocket, and rather than a phone, he plucks out a pishy old pregnancy test. And it's positive.
Now, it's got the cap put back on it, so no urine is exposed to the inside of that jacket. So, it's okay.
If that's in the pocket, what else is in the pocket? Ugh. Yikes. Yikes.
The cap is on, it's fine. I know people who frame those and hang them on their wall.
Those are the same people that smear feces on the walls of...
The Capitol building?
I was going to say cubicles in ladies' rooms.
That never happens in ladies' rooms. There's never shite on the walls in the ladies' room. We are not monsters like you men.
Well, you would say that.
I would.
When Gemma comes back, Chesney has gone white.
Whiter.
He shows her the
He's
test.
practically translucent.
He shows her the test. She checks it out, and then after a second starts pissing herself laughing. With 5 kids, they hardly ever get the chance to do anything fruity, and when they do, it's belts and braces all the way, which is a detail that's enough to send Nina spinning away with coffee refills. But if it's not Gemma who's pregnant, then who is?
Fruity must mean something different in the United Kingdom than it does.
Fruity's about how's your father?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why would 2 straight people be acting fruity then?
Because it's about
Right, between 2 members of the same sex.
Oh no, it's just general bedroom Olympics. What are you doing?
I'm trying to simulate.
You frapping?
I'm trying to simulate homosexual sex with my fingers.
Oh
I don't think I'm doing a very good job.
no.
I've never been in the room when it happens. I've seen it on TV.
Any more you want to say about this, or can I move on?
Yes, please. I think it's also important to know that when Daisy is filming with her phone, making this video, that Carla objects because she's looking sickly and haggard these days.
So in the Rovers, there's a bit of a whodunit that goes on. Gemma reckons it's Daisy, but Daisy practically vomits at the idea of pushing a baby out of her bits. Next, they suspect Carla, but Carla laughs just about as much as Gemma, and Peter joins in, whatever that means.
Right, yeah. So that just... Remember when they had that conversation when Bertie was like a baby? And Peter says, do you ever think about... And Carla's like, no!
But then we cut to the end of the jumble sale, and Summer is complaining to Paul that she can't find her bloody denim jacket. And then Paul heads to the Rovers, and he runs into Gemma, who shows off her fancy new
Fuck this
denim
show.
jacket. And she explains the piss stick that she found in the pocket, and the mystery of the who's up the duff. Gulp, says Paul lightheartedly, and he rushes off to speak with Summer.
Fuck this fucking show.
And Summer explains that Gemma bought her jacket, and he reveals what he found in the pocket, or what was found in the pocket, and he hasn't told Billy, but he encourages her to tell Aaron. If this really is a shitstorm, it's both of their shitstorm. And she reckons he has enough to worry about without all this nonsense. Paul explains his part in getting Aaron to back off, although I don't think anything Paul said weighed in the slightest in Aaron's decision.
No.
But she
and
goes off
he
to
also explains that it takes 2 to tango.
Yeah. But she goes off to see him after all and tells him the news. And he's shocked, thanks her for telling him, hugs her, and promises that he'll support her, whatever they decide to do.
Fuck this fucking show in the fucking ass.
On
I
Friday,
hate it here on God.
in Nina's rolls, Paul and Summer are chatting. She hasn't told Billy yet, but she's back with Aaron now, who has promised to stand by her. Paul mentions these fangled new pills that you can get for abortions these days. In the factory, Esther, who doesn't work in the factory, is in the factory talking to Summer, who barely works at the factory, and they agree to meet up to talk about the jumble later, which doesn't really explain why Esther is in a place where she doesn't work.
Right. And Esther goes on and on about how good the hot pots are, supposedly, at the Rovers.
Yeah. Summer is in the garage talking to Aaron, explaining about the meeting with Esther at lunch later, Billy apparently is too busy to attend, which Aaron isn't going to lose any sleep over, but it turns out that Billy really is there with this Mike and Esther characters, and he wonders why the fuck Aaron is there, does our Billy. Billy's a bit of an asshole for long periods of this story.
Yeah.
At lunch,
yeah.
Esther is complaining about the hot pot, while Billy seems to be complaining about Sean's skinny jeans. Aaron and Summer look like they want everyone to die, and Summer hasn't touched her sandwich, so Billy starts fussing just as Paul comes in, and then he's keen to chat to Aaron in front of strangers about his relationship with Summer. And confusion reigns. Esther offers Summer an ibuprofen. Paul says Summer can't take that in her condition, and Billy twigs that Summer is up the duff.
Right, yeah. Ibuprofen. Yeah, they'd rather you take Tylenol, acetaminophen. I don't know what it's called over there. But still.
Paracetamol, probably.
It's...
Esther and Mike quickly leave as Paul and Billy talk about her pregnancy as though she's not there. When Aaron says that he's standing by her, Billy points out that she should be at university, at which point the entire pub turns round and tells him to shut the fuck up.
Yes. Shut the fuck up, Billy.
Summer leaves for some fresh air, but she's quickly tracked down by this Esther character. She's there to offer a woman's perspective on anything and thinks that having a baby doesn't necessarily hold her back. She admits that she and Mike have been speaking to Billy about the problems they've had in conceiving. And then Mike shows up, and the creepy pair of shitbags double team Summer, offering to take Summer's baby off her hands and offering to pay her. And I'm like, she's been pregnant for like a day.
Right. Yeah, offering to pay for like the medical bills and stuff. But doing it in the most creepy way possible. And he kind of implies that he's already run the idea past Billy first. Because Billy needs to give his blessing for Summer to give away her bebe. What is...
Summer is appalled.
Where did these people come from? First of all, because they're very children of the corn, aren't they? They're very creepy and dead-eyed, and like the worst example of Christianity that's ever existed anywhere. They're just creepy people who say things in a weird way.
I think Carrie's mum was worse.
Okay, fine. Right, they haven't mentioned her dirty pillows yet. I will give you that.
They haven't, not yet.
No.
Not yet.
Wait until she starts to get a little heavier.
But yeah, Summer's appalled, but Mike and Esther insist that it's not really paying her. It's more exchanging money for goods and services.
Well, it's paying for the care, and it's like a surrogacy. And a surrogacy, you get paid. You get paid for being a surrogate.
And her holiday. They mentioned paying for a holiday if she wants to go on holiday. And remember, she's found out that she was pregnant 24 hours ago.
Less than 24 hours. That morning.
That was the previous morning. There's a day's passed. Because,
Has a day passed?
Yeah, because the previous day was the jumbo sale. This is the day after.
All right, this is the day after. Why are these people even here? The jumbo sale is over. They were supposed to be organizing this jumbo sale.
They insist on good people that offer to buy people's babies and reckon that God has put the three of them together. Fucking what? Says Summer lightheartedly. In Nina's roles, Summer explains to Aaron about the cash offer for their unborn baby. Summer felt sorry for Esther and asks his opinion on what to do. Meanwhile, back at the flat, the two other dads tell Todd about Summer's pregnancy and he assumes that she's getting rid of it, which offends Paul, who calls Todd a snob. Billy argues that them arguing doesn't help them figure out what to do, and Paul points out that it's not their decision, it's Summer's decision.
Thank you, Paul.
But he's in the minority on that opinion, and he leaves.
In fairness, Paul calls Todd a snob because Todd says, well, of course she's going to get rid of it because the only teenage mums are the ones on the estates that are too poor to be able to afford an abortion.
Yes.
Sort of thing. Todd is a snob.
Yes.
And he's also right-wing.
Back in Nina, not as right-wing as Chesney, though.
Close.
Back in Nina's roles, Aaron and Summer discuss how difficult the decision is. Aaron makes a note of pros and cons, and Summer is uncharacteristically pessimistic about the situation and can't believe the mess that she's made of her life and the lives of her three non-biological dads. She reckons Esther and Mike could give the baby a better life than they could, but Aaron isn't so sure that that's the case. Summer, though, reckons it's too soon for them, so that rules one of their options out. Although she's not sure how well she'd deal with pregnancy with her diabetes and body
Right.
issues.
Thank you. Finally, somebody addresses the elephant in the room. Somebody has seen
Just Tim's Boaby.
somebody has seen Steel Magnolias and knows how dangerous it can be for diabetic women to give birth.
The pregnancy could be bad for the baby. It sounds like she's made up her mind here. Meanwhile, the two dads continue to argue, Billy thinking that being stupid enough to get knocked up at her age doesn't make Summer intelligent, but maybe keeping the baby could work with their support. Plus, is it right to abort a baby because Summer might think that she's fat? And of course, this is the moment that Summer comes in. And she's furious, and none of her dads know what she's going through, and they shouldn't try to second guess her.
That was really appalling of Billy, because it kind of seemed to imply that, is it right to abort a baby if it's going to kill Summer?
Yeah. She and Aaron have made up their minds. They're getting that abortion. And that's how we end this week's episodes.
Fuck this show right up the fucking ass.
You did say that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank God for the moment Nina and Asha are in a same-sex relationship. Thank God Hope and Ruby are still
Way too young.
under the
Way
age
too
of
young.
12. Or at the age of 12.
Too young. Anyway,
Technically not too young. But still,
Sarah was 13.
what the hell, Coronation Street? Haven't we put this unsympathetic character that nobody cares about through enough?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're just going to throw another teenage pregnancy onto the show? Really? At least back when it happened to Sarah, the show had the decency of only having one teenage pregnancy.
Yeah, and it was dealt with kind of like a taboo subject.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because Toya never got up the duff as a teenager, did she? Or Leanne?
No, she was raped though.
They've already given Summer a sexual assault story with the upskirting, so they had to throw something else at her. Why another teenage pregnancy story? Why? Is this the only thing this show knows how to do with women?
It's not just Coronation Street. Emmerdale's having a massive problem with teenage pregnancies, and every female character has to get pregnant at some point. It's not that long ago that Amy was pregnant.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We just had a teenage pregnancy where she had to make the hard decision to have an abortion. And they wrote a very self-aware line for her about pregnancies on the street. You'd think they know. They think they know that we don't want this shit anymore.
It's not
that it's the wrong century for this.
It's not just teenage girls getting pregnant. If there's a teenage girl in a soap opera, there's let's call it Platt's law, says that she has to get pregnant.
Right.
It's not just that. It's that somebody has to offer to buy it.
Right.
Because in Amy's, it was Tracy and Steve who were going to made an offer to raise Amy's baby.
Right, but
And now
that's
we've
not creepy. That's her parents. That's not these creepy psycho cultish Christian people who have been in the show for 3 days. Because remember, we had the one scene where they were introduced last week, and then we had the clothing swap, and then we had this. I was worried before this week when I heard that this might be happening. I was worried that Paul, Todd, and Billy were going to get together, and they were going to raise this baby in a 3 men and a baby situation.
I don't think we can rule that out yet.
And I'm trying to decide which one is Steve Guttenberg,
It's Billy.
which one is Ted Danson,
It's Todd.
and which one is the other one. Who played the other one? It was Guttenberg, it was Danson, Selleck. Paul is Tom Selleck?
Paul isn't Tom Selleck.
Paul is Ted Danson? No, Paul is Steve Guttenberg. Let's be honest here.
Right.
Because Steve Guttenberg is the only one
Anyway,
that I can picture in a unicorn onesie. But it's just... It's like every woman on the street has to go through the assault storyline, and then the unplanned pregnancy storyline.
But again, it's a story older than time itself. On day 0, you think you're a little bit sickly, so you go and you buy yourself a pregnancy test.
And we didn't even get to see that.
On day 1, you find that you're pregnant. On day 2, cultish Christian people offer to buy your baby. I mean, this happens daily, doesn't it? It's like it's not even that this baby may not even be a baby. This baby, it's presumably her first pregnancy.
Right.
The chances of her carrying this full term, I guess there are risks, right? She's probably unlikely maybe to...
She's diabetic.
Right.
You know, she's young.
So so why would you be talking about buying something like this on day 1?
Right. Yeah. This baby is... This is not a baby. This is not a baby. And everybody keeps... Even Summer, who is on having an abortion, is referring to it as the baby. Mm-hmm. It's just... And the fact that they start this out with this whole wink, wink, nudge, nudge comedy story and whodunit bullshit, you know, which would be funny and cute if it was indeed Daisy or Carla, you know, adults who can take care of a baby and be responsible with a baby and is not a teenager who has an on-again, off-again relationship with their other diabetic partner.
That was another great part that was just like completely skipped over when Summer and Aaron are talking about the viability of them being good parents and sort of learning from their own parents and
who are shit
and all that sort of stuff. Where I think that, okay, maybe we would be great parents. Yeah, maybe you would be, but maybe you would be if you could go a week without breaking up with each other.
Right. Yeah. Neither one of them are mature enough for any of this.
But there's none of this conversation at this point in time makes any sense. And it just feels like, again, why are we rushing headlong into this? We've been doing it with the Homeless Stu story.
And why are we just shitting on Summer more? I mean, how many people have to tweet about the fact that they find this whole thing insufferable? They're just making her more insufferable. They're doing the character and the actor no favors. No. At all. And as Den pointed out on Twitter today, frustration that we finally remember that Billy is a vicar and that he's a Christian, and that's going to play into a storyline, and the storyline is going to be him not being comfortable with his daughter having an abortion when maybe, I don't know, he should have been a better parent and gotten her some sex education to begin with, because who the hell in this day and age, in the year of our Lord 2022,
oof, that makes you sound like you're on Esther and Mike's side here, is
going about having sex without protection. Haven't we educated the children enough? Back in the day when it was still kind of taboo to have a teenage pregnancy, you could kind of understand it because it was taboo, because we didn't talk to our kids about sex, because sex education in schools were shit. It's still kind of shit, but that's neither here nor there. Now, it doesn't make sense. It's rubbish. It's lazy. It's sloppy. And it just sounds like something from 20 years ago just being recycled for the sake of it, because we don't know what else to do with women except knock them up or have them brutalized in some way or have them be the fulcrum for a man to learn something about himself.
Well, we threw everything at Abby. We then threw everything at Nina, and we're continuing to throw everything at Summer. And
at least Nina didn't have a baby. At least Nina didn't get pregnant because Seb wasn't alive enough in that relationship. And
I think we're led to believe that they did the deed at the rape hotel. when it seemed that they were more interested in talking about getting a drink at the bar.
No,
and then,
they had it at Billy's. Remember, they went into her room.
that
at
was
one
last
time.
week.
No, not that time. Not the time they were high, obviously. I don't know. The whole thing is just ridiculous and stupid from beginning to end. And I just...
Yeah, I hate
fuck
this.
the show. We hate this.
I hate this. I
We
mean,
hate this more than Homeless Stu's murder.
I haven't liked lots of bits about the summer storyline because they keep on forgetting bits, and again, it's just an absolute pile on. But at this point, she does not need this storyline.
No.
The show does not need this storyline.
No.
It is not intriguing. It's not going to make me watch on Monday. It is not something that we're going to talk about
No.
positively
No.
about, I wonder what's going to happen. It's just like, let's get this shit finished and move on to something else. I'm now starting to wish that she'd gone to Oxford.
Yeah. I would rather have more heavy-handed speeches about refugees between two characters who have never talked to one another before now
Two very right-wing characters.
than another teenage pregnancy that's
Yeah.
going to end in an abortion just because it's a teenager.
Well, I'm now worried that because we're talking about an abortion so early on that's not what's going to happen.
Right, that
Because-
Billy's going to talk her out of it.
Because why are we introducing these weird Christian people?
Creepy people.
They're either going to talk her out of it or Billy's going to talk her out of it.
Because if social workers are evil and cops are stupid, Christians are creepy.
Yep. Well, those two certainly are.
Right,
That
and
was-
they're like the only Christians we've seen in the show because
Well,
the show
I presume
keeps
Billy's a little bit Christian.
because the show keeps forgetting that Billy's a vicar.
That was the week that was Coronation Street. Oh, that was heavy going this week.
It was terrible. It makes me cough. It was
What-
so terrible.
Oh, I don't think anyone's noticed. What was your moment of the week?
Audrey and Sam,
Oh, I thought it was like Harvey and Leanne.
I found it very creepy and disturbing and uncomfortable.
You didn't think that Leanne's speech to Harvey was worthy of at least consideration for a moment of the week?
No, because it was dehumanizing, and he was doing a bad enough job himself of dehumanizing himself.
She was dehumanizing?
Yes, like you're not worth blah blah blah, and you did this to this boy, and then he makes her look stupid by talking about the letters. I don't
Did
know.
make me chuckle. Sam and Audrey then?
Can you think of anything else?
Wasn't a great week.
It really wasn't a great week. It's been a while since we've given it to Sam, and we love Sam. And when did we ever give it? I think the last time we gave it to Audrey was when Audrey was drunk and calling Sam Ben.
No, we gave it to Audrey when
Oh
she
no,
was...
she got right her suicide storyline, which we've forgotten about now. She's all better. She's not going to kill herself now.
Fine, that's our
Moment of the week.
and our boring moment of the week
Refugees.
was the strangest refugee conversation.
Two
By two-
strange conversations about refugees, just stuck in the middle for no reason at all.
We had time to fill and
We're not even talking. The people involved in the refugee story aren't even involved in either one of these conversations. We have no Maria, we have no Max, we have no David.
no Daniel?
Yeah,
Darian.
right, yeah.
Oh,
And
Darian.
we have Jacob explaining to Kirk the differences between a refugee and an asylum seeker, and political refugees and social refugees.
That's
What?
Boring moment of the week.
This is things like that make people right wing.
Who do you think is the most right-wing character on Coronation Street?
And why is it Todd?
Write in to tell us. That's Chesney. We're the Talk of the Street at gmail.com and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. You can shout me and Helen a coffee by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street. Check out the clicky section of voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store and YouTube channel. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.